it is a consumer-friendly bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Manya Abdul Wahab ji. Dr. Ashok Bajpai. Dr. Ashok Bajpai, not present. Sri Maharaja Sanajaoba Leishemba. Sri Maharaja Sanajaoba, please speak.
Sir, thank you, Honorable Deputy Chairman and Honorable Prime Minister of India, Sri Narendra Modi ji, and the leaders of my party, BJP, for giving me this opportunity. And I rise to speak in support of the bill, sir. Sir, the Energy Conservation Amendment Bill 2022, which was introduced in Lok Sabha on 3rd August 22 and passed in the same House on 8th August 22, is to amend the Energy Conservation Act 2001 and to empower the central government to specify a carbon credit trading scheme. The bill also aims to reduce carbon emissions and to address the climate change and find out non-fossil energy sources to meet the requirements. Sir, the bill also seeks to provide regulatory frameworks for number 1, carbon trading in India, number 2, encouragement of penetration of renewable in energy mix, number 3, effective implementation and enforcement of Energy Conservation Act, sir. Sir, energy conservation means reduce the consumption of energy or limited the use. It means use of fewer energy service or use devices which require less energy, thus promoting conservation of energy. Air pollution due to burning of fossil fuel causes several harmful diseases in humans and animals. Using less energy or conserving energy reduces living expenses and protects the environment from excess use and carbon dioxide emissions. Sir, India has already announced at COP26 Conference of Parties at Glasgow 2021 the following main points. Point number 1, 500 gigawatts of electricity from non-fossil fuels by 2030. Point number 2, reduction of carbon emission by additional 1 billion tons and reducing carbon intensity economy less than 45%. Number 3, net zero emission by 2070. Sir, this clearly shows India's sincere determination to work for low carbon emission in combating the climate change and also endeavoring to achieve sustainable development goals, sir. Sir, India's sincere effort of NDC, nationally determined contribution, has made changes in climate action much before 2030. Sir, India is the only G20 nation to be in line with 2 degrees centigrade warming because of its climate action. The per capita energy consumption of India is 1/3 of the world average, whereas carbon emission is 1.9 ton of CO2 in 2019 compared with 15.5 tons for the US and 12.5 tons for Russia. That year, despite India being the home of 1/6 of global population. Globally, India stands fourth in renewable energy power capacity and fourth in wind power and also fourth in solar power capacity, having one of the highest growth rates for renewable energy in the world. According to Global Trends in Renewable Energy Investment, 2020 reports India attracted an investment of US $64.2 billion in our currency, rupees 4.7 lakh crores during 2014 and 2019, sir. Amidst growing energy needs and the changing global climate scenario, the Government of India is trying to enhance the capacity of renewable energy by proposing amendments to Energy Conservation Act 2001. The objective is to enhance demand for renewable energy for sectors such as industries, buildings, and transports, etc. The Energy Conservation Amendment Bill 2022 is very much necessary to meet the additional energy requirements for sustainable development as well as a green economy. To attain India's motto, leave no one behind, the Government of India is trying to work collaboratively with domestic and global stakeholders in the energy sector for a sustainable non-fossil energy generation, sir. Sir, in the conclusion, many countries in the world are making amendments and changes in the energy sector not to affect the climate change, giving focus on clean energy and energy conservation. India's progress is very impressive and making nationally determined contributions as announced at COP26 at Glasgow 2021. The Energy Conservation Act enacted in 2001 and which was amended in 2010 is necessary to make amendments again due to emergence of new factors. Sir, factor number 1, to promote new and renewable energy sources. Factor number 2, development of a domestic carbon market, sir. Sir, justification of amendment is, sir, the amendments include such as carbon trading and minimum share of non-fossil consumption, as well as keeping the country with sustainable development and keeping country's commitment related to climate change. The energy efficiency will be broadened into energy transition, giving focus on the reducing of carbon footprints of our economy. However, the bills will support the industries to grow in a sustainable manner. The proposed amendments shall promote use of non-fossil energy sources, including green hydrogen, green ammonia, and making penalties for offenders more effective. Sir, there are also many major amendments in this bill. Number 1, legal framework to mandate use of non-fossil sources, including green hydrogen, for energy and the feedstock. To reduce carbon emission of Indian economy, we have to use non-fossil energy sources and feedstocks like green hydrogen, green ammonia, biomass, and ethanols, etc. And point number 2, framework for carbon markets. Climate change has become the most important sector of entire ecosystem. Carbon emission from fossil fuels or greenhouse gas emission is responsible for global warming. Nowadays, carbon markets are playing a very important role in the reduction of carbon emission, and the carbon trading can be applied to the private sector also. Sir, number 3, major amendment, bringing large residential buildings within the fold of the energy conservation regime. Residential buildings consume about 24% of total electricity in India, and this sector is poised for an exceptional growth during the next 2 decades, with an estimated addition of about 3 billion square meters by 2030. The proposal includes expanding the scope of building to include large residential building with connected load more than 100 kilowatts or 120 kVA, sir. And sir, increasing the scope of energy conservation building code, the idea of lifestyle for environment movement, which was introduced by our Honorable Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi ji during the 26th United Nations Climate Change Conference, COP26 at Glasgow 2021. The idea promotes an environment-conscious lifestyle that focuses on mindful and deliberate utilization instead of mindless and destructive consumption. The scope of energy conservation building code ECBC is proposed to be widened to include renewable energy and sustainable building concepts and to be renamed as Energy Conservation and Sustainable Building Code ECSBC, which will be implemented through building bylaws of respective state governments. Sir, major amendment number 5, amendments in penalty provision to make the enforcement more effective. Penalty provisions are being differentiated based on the area of implementation sector, namely appliance industries and vehicles, etc. At the same time, penalty provisions effective large number of citizens are proposed to be rationalized under the objectives of enhancing ease of doing business and ease of living. Penalties regarding non-compliance with the ECSBC are being deleted, and this will be administered through provisions of building bylaws. Similarly, under Section 14, Clause C, the words sales or purchase of appliance are deleted, thereby keeping the accountability for prohibition and inefficient appliance limited to only manufacturer and importer. This will avoid undue harassments to the retailer, dealers, and the consumers, etc. Sir, my last point is other amendments. Number 1, inclusion of various ministries in Governing Council of Bureau of Energy Efficiency, BEE, for better functioning of BEE. And number 2, power to State Electricity Regulatory Commission to have smooth enforcement process are included. Sir, with these few words, I conclude my speech, and I wholeheartedly support the bill and request all the honorable members to support the bill to be passed. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sri Maharaja Sanjoba ji. Now, Honorable